Good evening, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Newport City Council called for 6 p.m. Monday, the 6th of October. Present, we have all council members: Carter Finnegan, Andrew Touchette, John Manette, Kevin Charbonneau. We also have Clerk Treasurer Jim Johnson. And we've got Tom Bernier, Director of Public Works. Chief of Police Travis Bingham is in the room. And I think that's it for now. I'm expecting a few other people to drop in maybe as we go along.
Carrie's here.
Yes, oh, thank you. Carrie's here in the back as well. Carrie Schultz, our Financial and Office Administrator. So we have a very full agenda this evening, and I'm looking forward to lots of good conversation. We have all kinds of fun topics on our before us tonight. Because we have so many topics that may be of interest to people and that folks may want to comment on, we're going to put folks on a 2-minute timeline tonight for each topic. You can certainly speak more than once to different topics. Please do not plan to speak more than once to the same topic. All right. So, and Andrew has volunteered to keep us on a timeline, so when you hear the little buzzer go off at 2 minutes, we won't say stop in the middle of a sentence, but please make an effort to shut it down sometime shortly thereafter. And we'll see if we can get through all of our material in a timely fashion tonight. Are there any additions and deletions? Carter?
None.
Andrew?
No, thank you.
John? Kevin? Jim?
No.
Okay, and I don't have any either, so what you see is what you get on the agenda. And if you haven't picked one up, there are copies of the agenda and a few of the materials we'll be covering tonight on the table up here. You're welcome to come forward. So our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It includes the approval of the minutes from the 15th of September, which was our last meeting of the council. It includes 4 sets of AP warrants from September 17th, September 25th, September 29th, and October 3rd. It includes 2 PR warrants from the 16th of September and the 30th of September. And it does not have any special vendor permits, liquor licenses, special events requests, nothing that Jim, you don't have anything that I'm not aware of, okay. So those are the items included in the packet. Are there any questions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kevin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. So the next item on our agenda is a review of the ordinance that is being recommended from the Task Force on Housing Insecurity, Public Encampments, and Community Safety. And I'll just give a little bit of background and then invite Chief Bingham to present first. And then we'll invite the council members to ask any questions about it. And then we'll hear from the community. Anybody who would like to speak to it. Actually, I think we'll probably hear from the council members first, the task force members who are present who would like to speak in there somewhere, and then finally we'll come back and allow the council to ask any final questions, make any final changes. I'll just remind you, this is your document. So the task force is recommending what they've labored over for the last now about 3 months, but when it leaves here tonight, it either goes or doesn't go over your signatures, which means any adjustments, any perfections you want to make are totally in order tonight. So just to remind everyone in the room, kind of what brought us here, we started this task force in early June. I chose to put a hopelessly long name on the name of the task force that I sometimes have trouble remembering myself, but I've actually found really helpful over the last several months because it's grounded us in the idea that there's more than one thing that this group of people is tasked with doing. They have met every 2 weeks, almost without fail. I think we may have missed one meeting in there this summer. And the task force is made up of about a dozen people, many of whom work for various social service agencies in Newport and the Northern NEK. They have been remarkably faithful to this process, and I'm deeply grateful for the folks, both those who are in the room tonight and those who have been coming to the meetings and couldn't make it tonight. So over time, the focus of the task force kind of clarified into 3 directions, only one of which is before you tonight. The first was to try and create some kind of a document that the council could act upon to give some guidance to our police department in particular about how we would like to see them approach challenges around public encampments in public spaces, or non-public, people who are camping in public spaces without authorization, maybe is the best way to put that. Then a second area that the task force has spent a lot of time on is a question about trying to figure out how to stand up some kind of a short-term, maybe 6-month warming shelter as a cooperative effort in the community. I'm not necessarily expecting the council to be asked to take action directly on that. It's just been a convening at that table of people who are trying to work on that issue together. And then finally, the hope is, though we have not spent a lot of time on it yet, to go back to the drawing board and think about long-term prospects for how to respond in the future to folks who are housing insecure and how to provide genuine and appropriate support to those folks. Again, I'm not at all clear that the council will ever be asked to take action on that in particular, but it's something that the task force has been asked to consider as they work together. Kevin, do you want to add anything to that summary? Okay.
No.
So I'm wondering, Chief, if you might want to rise and speak to the ordinance that's before the group, kind of highlight the things that you think are most important, and then we'll see if they have any questions for you, and then we'll open it up to the community.
All right, cool, sounds good. Thank you for looking over this document. I had gone to Rick probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago and said, Rick, we have a problem, right? Like, we had been dealing with some encampment issues, people that are unhoused, things like that. And officers are not knowing how to interact, not knowing what to do, not being able to steer people in the right direction. So Rick and I came up with, there's other towns, St. Jay, Montpelier, Burlington, other towns in the south that have encampment policies in place, right? Like, we're not reinventing the wheel with this ordinance that we're trying to put before you guys and have in place for the city of Newport. Ordinances like this are common throughout the state and are already in place. My goal was to give something to my staff when we do get calls like this, to have something to guide them by that would be a good approach for everybody, including the people that are either staying in the encampment, and for the officers to know what direction they can and can't go in these kind of instances. So that's what I was looking for out of this. There's some people here tonight that were on the task force that did a lot of work over the 4.5 months, and I appreciate that. It was very helpful insight on both sides. Saw a lot of good conversations happen. I'm not going to read this whole thing for you guys word for word. I hope you had a chance to go through it, but just want to point out a few things. There was a lot of empathy put into this. It wasn't just like, we're going to rip people's tents down and we're going to throw them back out. We don't care where they go from there. That's not the point of this at all, right? The point of this is to have interactions with people in these scenarios that we can help get them tied into services. We can work with them, right? Like, it's not going to be a all for nothing, see you later, we're taking your tent and out of here. That's not the goal of this, okay? I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's the city's intent to pursue a balanced approach, one that honors human dignity and compassion while taking seriously its duty to safeguard the community and the public infrastructure, okay? I think that's important. So it talks about like what we intend to do with the ordinance, what it's not intended to do, and then it goes through the definitions that are laid out in here, talks about some of the high sensitive areas that we've outlined, the hazard zones, some of the public health and safety factors that come up. Talks about enforcement action, and then the other part that I want to read in here, right, is like the non-emergency violations, which I think is important, is like, you know, we're going to give people a chance. Like, if this scenario comes up where somebody is in violation of this ordinance, we're going to go, we're going to talk to them, we're going to give them a chance to get their stuff out of there, okay, in those scenarios. And we're going to bring people from NEK-TV with us, other people from maybe Journey to Recovery or other resources that we think might be available to come with us and do this, right? Like, I can almost see this as more of a police hands-off approach until it gets to the point where we have to step in because maybe people are actually refusing to follow what the ordinance says in here. So I think those are the big things that I wanted to point out. The civil penalties are laid out on the last page. So yeah, that's what we're looking for, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Council members, do you have questions for the chief before we open it up to hear from folks in the community?
I just had one specific wording, section 3A, part 4, other sensitive municipal sites, where it says critical water infrastructure. I think it should say critical utility infrastructure, because the city has utilities other than water.
At the bottom of the second page, just to be
Yes.
clear. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, section 3A, part 4.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, task force members, but I think originally had in there utility easements, and then I think it got taken out.
No, it's still in there,
Is it?
but I'm not a member.
Right.
You might check with a member.
There was something else about utility, a separate section.
Yeah, I
about
think that was in the
utility
sensitive
easements, but
zones.
Other sensitive municipal sites
Yep.
could include anything relating to
Right.
stormwater because of flood issues, wastewater system,
Agreed.
pump station, wastewater pump
Yep.
stations, et cetera. So that's my logic there.
Other comments or questions from the council?
Wherever we can add context to make it really like crystal clear, for example, where it says, I'm looking at either 3C, public health and safety factors, and then also 3D. So in 3C, sites requiring environmental cleanup or restoration. Like, does that mean that there's trash, or does that mean like substantial soil was moved around, or like trees have been cut? That is a really big term to me, but I don't know if it could be like punitively implied. Like, I'm just trying to think of, 10 years from now, if we have this in place, it's working well, but again, I just want it to be like ironclad. And so that was one question. And then also, on 3D environmental protection zones, the second bullet, the location is within an area the city has designated as environmentally sensitive, protected, or ecologically fragile. And I don't know if the city has those sort of designations. So one tool that I know I use on a regional level is called the Municipal Vulnerability Index. It's a mouthful. And I have it pulled up. And I can't show it, but I'm just gonna show my screen. So it's this really cool tool. It's with ArcGIS, and you can do all sorts of layers. And I'll send you the link, but that could be really helpful in giving more framework around what is sensitive and the areas clearly defined. Because I think right now, since that, I don't know of that existing in any other policy or ordinance, that's like a tool inlay where you can say, please reference this, and it clearly highlights areas that are like wetlands, all sorts of reasons. And they often do overlap with all of the other issues, like the utilities that are sensitive to human and public health. So that just gives more backbone to that.
Yep.
Thank you, Kurt.
The other question there is whether it should be limited to city designated areas, given that the state and federal governments have far more jurisdiction in those areas than the city does and can designate.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I look at the other ordinances, right, as far as like, the dog ordinance, right? Like, you gotta be able to walk your dog and have your dog under control. It doesn't matter if you're on city property, it doesn't matter if you're walking the boardwalk that's owned by the state. So, like, the tough part with the ordinance, and I appreciate both of those suggestions, and maybe those changes need to be made. You can go down a rabbit hole on almost like every single one of these, right? And some of it might be a little vague, and I get that. And if we want to make like the floodplain area, like there's a whole FEMA map that we could tally in this ordinance with that, right? So it's, I guess it's up to you guys how far you want to go and how detailed you want it. And if you want to make those, differentiate between like city and state property, then we can certainly put that in there.
Well, and I was thinking specifically about the environmentally sensitive, protected, or ecologically fragile areas in the
Yep.
sense that other entities can designate those areas.
Right.
And if an area falls into that category, what difference does it make whether it's the city or the
Right.
feds or
Yep.
the A&R that's done the designation?
Understood. Yep.
And yeah, and y'all do, make a nod to the FEMA designated flood maps, just in a different section, so it's
Yeah.
definitely covered in
Yeah.
one specific.
Yeah.
Other questions for Travis? So I have a suggestion about process as we're talking about this. I think what we ought to do is hear from anybody in the community who would like to speak. And I suspect there will be some specific suggestions, at the end of which I think it would be up to the council members to decide, do you want to try and perfect this document tonight? Or do you want to put it off for 2 weeks and perfect it at the next meeting? That would be our first decision. If you decide you want to perfect it tonight, then it would be a question of going to the, the three things that Carter and John have just lifted up, for instance, and acting as a council to make a decision about how you want to modify the language on each item that you would like to modify, so that the council is clear about what the final version would be. At which point we would have a perfected document, and the council would then vote on the final language of a piece. And honestly, so I don't think I have a preference. We could do it either way, and I think we could do it fairly efficiently either way you want to do it. So if it's okay, we'll ask Travis to sit down, and we'll invite anybody in the community, including members of the task force, to speak. And y'all can take notes and do whatever you want. And then once we've allowed the members of the community to speak, we'll bring it back to council and just have a conversation among ourselves about how to go forward. Does that sound all right? So, okay, we're going to start recognizing folks in the community, and Andrew's going to do 2-minute timelines on these. So I see Pam's hand. Go ahead. And please remember, folks, to state your name and any affiliation you want to state.
Pam Newport. I find it fascinating that while you're analysing this document, nobody in here tonight has mentioned the people it concerns, the so-called unhoused, who are actually real-life people, many of whom have presented themselves to NECA and to the other agencies, been handed a tent and told to toddle off with it and pitch it somewhere. When they ask where they can pitch it, the answer is, we can't tell them, but here, have a copy of the ordinance. As you read that ordinance, is that something you truly want to hand to somebody who has no clue what they can do with a tent, where they're going to go? The rest of the ordinance is about moving people on. I'm sorry, you can't stop there. Move on somewhere else. Well, where can I go? I don't know. And so it keeps going. If the purpose of the ordinance is for compassion, and I keep hearing that word, but I ain't seeing any of it, it shouldn't be cruel. And what I see this document is something that is really cruel. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sue Dwelly, Newport, and that's my question also. Where are people supposed to go?
Go ahead, Ann.
Stop me at 1 minute because I need to get to another spot in this talk. Pam started it. The person getting the tent. She doesn't know where to take it. You could give her the ordinance, but then she's got to have a measuring tape to figure out what's 500 feet from a school, what's 300 feet from an elder hostel, what's where is the elder hostel. So she's got to figure all that out, and she's got to walk a long distance and finally find some place to put up her tent that night. And lo and behold, the next day the police are there and they say, oh no, I'm sorry, but you're really, you're 49 feet from the road and you're not allowed to be. And you're also 459 feet from a school and you're not allowed to be. So you have to move. And the person says, well, that's fine. Can you just tell me where to go? Wouldn't that be fair? That's it? Okay. So then I want to get on to, in that context, I want some changes made in this ordinance. It's a hallmark of due process that you get notice of where you're going to violate. So you need to know where you're going to violate. Well, it's there, somewhere in there. But it's not there where you're going to be legal. And so I submit to you that you need to change Part 4E. and write in words like this. Written notice of the location of campsites on public property that do not violate the ordinance, a list. Or in the alternative, if what is true when you finally analyze these things is that there are no sites in Newport where you can put one of these tents on public property that doesn't violate the ordinance, you tell them. You either give them the list or you say, you cannot camp on public property and conform, you gotta move. The second thing,
How many more points do you have?
one more serious
Go
point.
ahead.
And that's also notice, due process. You got a contradiction if you look at 4B and C, perfectly proper. It tells you in an emergency situation, you can be moved without notice. Okay. And in a non-emergency situation, you get 72 hours so that you can move your stuff and figure out where the heck next to go. But in the same ordinance at 3, you have encampments shall be subject to removal with no prior notice required. Every single violation is included in that. And later on in...
Sorry, Ann, where are you?
At the top of 3, the language is,
I see it. The first paragraph immediately under section 3.
you want me to read it to you? It says
No, I
encampments
just wanted to
located.
make sure we understood where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you say that they have all these things, every one of the violations that follow, you need notice. You need no notice, and they can take you out right away. Get out of there, right away.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
And and the other two areas are, at 3E, removal shall be authorized for encampments in these zones, meaning the ones on top, or exhibiting those conditions without prior notice. My suggestion to you is that that language be omitted in those sections and you function on 4B and C. There was an argument made by some that, we've got to trust the police to be nice and pleasant about all of this and kind. But that's not what an ordinance does. Because one, you can't trust...
I'm going to ask you to wind it up. We've gone
Yeah,
way,
you
way,
can't
way
trust the
over.
police who will come in the future, even though the ones in the present...
Okay, we're done. We're going to move on. Thank
Okay.
you very much for your comments.
I do submit that 2 minutes was not enough
I
for such a
understand.
big
We're
issue.
doing our level best to make sure that people have a voice. Charlie?
Okay. I'm gonna get cracked from Pam for this, but that's
That's not news.
Just remember, please, that you're directing your
I
comments
know.
to me and to the council.
I know. So, here's the problem, as I see it. The city having a homeless, on-house, whatever you wanna call it, situation. The police officers need a way to control that. And that's what I read the ordinance, I thought it was a pretty good ordinance for the most part. The problem is, there are a lot of people here that are thinking, but this doesn't solve the problem. And I agree, that doesn't solve the problem. But it isn't the city of Newport's problem. And we have organizations, we have NEK-TV, we have mental health, we have a lot of services that are deemed to help these people. That's their function. If they're not doing their job, then we should be pushing them to do their job. In the meantime, the city has to have some control and some overtake. Everybody knows what's happening to Burlington. If they don't, do me a favor, go down to Church Street in Burlington and take a walk through their city park. You can't do it anymore. There's needles, camps. If you feed the bears, you will get more bears. So I don't believe the city, that is not a job of the city to find a place for these people. It is a job for the city to control it. it's the job for the others to do it. And I know that sounds not very compassionate, but I even wrote this. So true compassion doesn't enable. What you guys want is to enable this. It's support.
Wait, Charlie, remember who you're talking to.
Okay.
Okay.
True compassion doesn't enable, it supports with the intention of helping someone grow and heal. When your actions, however well-intentioned, prevent somebody from learning and taking responsibility for your choices, you are enabling. And if we enable them, we're gonna end up like Burlington. And if you give them a place, a free place to come, then you're gonna get all Orleans County. And if you give more, you're gonna get more. I mean, I even heard that there was talk about looking at the old Newport Healthcare Center and turning that into a homeless shelter. What a horrible idea that is. We need nursing homes. We need assisted living homes for the elderly here.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to
We
wrap
sure
up,
don't need
Charlie.
that. My 2 minutes?
Yeah, we're well over. Keep
Okay,
going.
I didn't hear a bell ring, so anyways, I just don't think that's the city's function. I think this is necessary.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Melissa Mosley and I'm from Journey to Recovery. I'm the assistant director there, and first and foremost, we're not talking about bears and animals, we're talking about human beings. We're talking about mothers and fathers and daughters and uncles, and I understand that our town needs support and help in trying to figure out a solution to this huge problem. We are all doing our job. It's hard for people to access treatment. If you are pushed away and pushed out, that just pushes you more into shame, more into stigma. No one there to help out. We don't enable, we offer resources. I would be the first one in the officer's car going to that encampment and offering treatment, offering coming to our center, offering a shower.
Remember, you're directing your comments up here, Melissa. Thank you. It's hard to do.
As this is a community problem. This is truly a community problem, and there, you know, we need to be able to move through this, and I want to, again, like other people in this room, I understand we need an ordinance. I understand there needs to be rules and policies, but I also understand that we need to have something else to be able to offer. And I just want to be able to bring it back to human beings, souls.
Thank you very much for your comments. Go ahead, Jen.
Jennifer Bierling, Newport, Vermont. The history books should probably record that this might be one of the few times I agree with Mr. Pronto.
I will certainly note it.
So the way that I see this is that we are a small city with very limited resources that are being pushed to the absolute limits. And I think the special election on the bond thing drove that point, you know, home. We need help from the state. I don't deny that this is a problem, and I don't deny that these are moms and dads and kids, and I've got some of the kids, you know, in my classroom from, you know, Orleans County, so I'm very familiar with the problem, but we need help from the state. And so, I mean, I know that, you know, our former mayor is on the Housing Commission, and I don't know if anybody's reached out to her to try to get her to, you know, help in this regard. But Newport as a city just doesn't have the resources to take on this problem. And at the same time, we can't just willy-nilly allow encampments to be set up, you know, here, there, and everywhere, because it's not only a problem in terms of the other residents that are not in the encampments, but it's a safety issue for the people that are in the encampments as well. So I don't have a lot of solutions to offer here, and I wish I did, but I think we need to aggressively approach the state. I think we need to use our connections with the Housing Commission, and I think we need to get them on board with helping Newport, because we just don't have the resources.
Thank you for your comments. There are others who would like to make comments.
I will.
Please go ahead, Travis.
Hi, Travis Gaines, Newport. I was part of the task force that helped to draft the ordinance. In fact, I partnered with Chief Bingham to work on this, and I can tell you that from the initial onset, compassionate enforcement of some protocol was at front of mind through the entire process and has been through the completion of the ordinance. I don't think that compassion has to exempt somebody from personal responsibility. And you know, we can provide resources, but also expect people to act in the bounds of what the city has set forth. And it doesn't have to be a public property solution. There are many owners of private property in Newport that might be willing to have 1, 2, 3 people camp on their property. And Ann, I read your repeated draft. I'm sorry, to the front.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that anybody's heart would go out to that person that you drew a picture of so well in that first page. But we also have to realize that there are people that are not as savory. I had an unhoused person squatting in the back of the Family Dollar, 20 feet from a parking lot where kids play foursquare and soccer. And it was littered after just a couple of days with drug paraphernalia. He was out there publicly intoxicated, swearing, and if you were a parent, you wouldn't necessarily want that 20 feet from one of your kids at a school, which is one of the high sensitivity areas. And so I think that we have to look at it with more than just rose-colored glasses on who these people may be in the future. Some of them would fit that example. Others would be people that you wouldn't want in the high sensitivity area.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the community like to comment? Okay, hearing none, council members, it's up to you folks to, you are welcome to discuss with one another. You're welcome to ask more questions if you would like. And then I think we would want to have a little bit of a conversation about what you would like to do with this document tonight, whether you'd like to try and perfect it and move it forward, or whether you'd like more time with it. So I'd love to hear what y'all are thinking.
Has this gone in front of, or have we asked VLCT or our attorneys to review this policy? Like, I saw that there were cases cited towards the end, which is helpful, but I don't have that knowledge and know-how and how that would, maybe this ordinance would be legally standing. I just don't have that knowledge. So have there been any tiers of support around that, like adopting, or is this a really close template to St. Johnsbury, for example, or St. Albans, and
So-
did that get approved?
I can answer that question. So I would say the answer is no. In terms of final review,
Yeah.
it has not been finally vetted for the final language. But it started with, as Travis mentioned, the chief mentioned, it started with documents that are already in place and functioning with a number of other sister cities. So that's where we began in terms of the template.
And it's my understanding that these meetings have involved all members of the public. I understand that partners in this community that usually uplift those populations, but also members of this population that this directly affects most have been involved in the conversation. I don't know if that's been consistent, and understandingly, that might be hard for that person to come up and show up, publicly put on the spot like that.
I'd say it was inconsistent, but there were 2 meetings midsummer, late July, early August, and kudos to Adam Ortiz, because he's really the person who made it happen. Adam went out and really talked about this with folks in the community and encouraged them to come, and then helped them figure out when to come. And there was one meeting in particular that focused almost entirely on their voices and on the parts of the document that made them most anxious. So where there were, I don't know, maybe Chief, you want to speak to this a little bit, but my sense was that the result of those couple of meetings was a draft that basically tried to take the language about criminalization out of the document insofar as possible. Do you want to add anything to that, Chief?
No, that's correct.
Kevin, you were in those meetings as well. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, and not specifically what they had for comment, but this ordinance is important because it gives all of the officers and actually city employees, I was thinking Public Works could encounter somebody as well. If we have a level playing field, if we have something to guide them, it's going to be a uniform response. Otherwise, what we have is somebody could be really aggressive, arrest them, boot them out, whatever. Somebody else might say, I don't care, and just let them do whatever. Neither one of those really helps a person. What we attempted to do in the committee was not only get a baseline of how people are going to be approached and interacted with, but our thought was to involve a lot of the agencies, as many as we could think of, so that these people could be referred to them if they needed help, if they had a mental health crisis, if they were suffering from substance abuse. And that was, it's a very basic thing. This doesn't solve homelessness. This doesn't clean up the city, but it treats people the same with dignity and says, all right, you're doing this, but maybe we can help. And I think, you know, we're expecting a lot from the ordinance when it's really a basic thing. And as Rick had mentioned, it's actually one of several parts of the task force. And it's kind of the gateway. It's going to get people involved with the agencies. And that's what we're looking for.
Thank you.
When these agencies are called upon, do they respond in a timely manner?
Well, it's tough to answer that because it depends, right? Like, we get calls all night, multiple times of the day. Like in the ordinance, it talks about trying to do stuff during business hours, typically like between the hours of 8 and 5. And yeah, they're pretty responsive for the most part, from our experience. But after hours, not so much. That's harder, right? Because there's not people on 24/7. But typically, that's when we're dealing with these issues is after hours. So that's definitely an issue. But that's everything. That's not just this. That's everything that we deal with.
Thank you, Chief. Other comments and questions before we ask the question about whether we want to try and take action on this tonight?
I just had an emphasis has been around how can we be most empathetic or compassionate with this ordinance, and one thing that stands out, and I don't know, so I'm just a clarifying question. Section 6, coordination with outreach providers. Second bullet says, minimize trauma during relocation. So what are examples of this? Like, how can, again, I just love being more specific, but I get that an ordinance is not solving all the issues. But what are some examples of ways that our staff, both police, and I like bringing up that Public Works also kind of needs this, yeah, how can they reduce trauma during this time?
What's that?
Are you directing that primarily at Chief Bingham?
Yeah, or members of the task force that know from their background, like, oh, well, during this you know, I just don't know examples of how you can minimize trauma.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, right,
Yeah.
like people for whatever reason are scared to interact with the police initially. If they've never had interactions, or maybe they've had bad interactions with the police, just like a generational thing, right? Like maybe their parents have had involvements, now their kids have this belief that all police officers are bad and their parents go to jail. Like if we can minimize those kinds of interactions, so maybe it's not me going there and saying, hey, you gotta come with me, you gotta get in my car, we gotta go to NEK-TV. Maybe it's like, hey Casey, can you guys send somebody down with us and walk these people over to NECA with us so we don't have to put them in the police car and then people don't have to see them walking down Main Street with a police officer? Like, you try to take that out of it a little bit. I think those kinds of issues for trauma anyways, and because that's the reality of it. Like, we arrest adults sometimes. You're like, can you just not put me in handcuffs right here? Sure, let's go out behind the car and do it, or something like that, right? So that's what I picture from our side, right? Like,
Thank you.
yeah.
Melissa, do you want to add anything to that?
We just had wonderful interactions with the police officers here. I mean, they've actually drive people to Journey to Recovery and have them access services. We feel very comfortable. We had an experience with somebody that has a substance use disorder, and I stood and I watched the police officers, and I watched our ambulance squad, and everybody treated that person with the utmost respect. And I know that this is multiple, things in our community. So yes, anything with the police officers has been helpful, and they do come to our center, sit at our table and talk to people.
Hi, I'm Tesla. I'm with the Front Porch. I also just want to note to that we've had nothing but positive interaction with Newport Police Department. They often are a big part in getting guests to the Front Porch to receive services and explore different support options. So we've had nothing but positive engagements.
Yeah, I think the other part is like the other traumas maybe that might be included are like, let's just say there's somebody that you have to relocate, right? Like, they're in violation of the ordinance, it's just not working out, you gotta go somewhere, right? So maybe, it says in there, minimize trauma during relocation. So maybe they have a place to stay that night, right? Like, maybe a service sets them up, says, hey, you can come stay here, we'll set you up tonight, we'll meet tomorrow during business hours when it's appropriate, and we'll try to get you located, rather than being like, well, you're out of here, you have nowhere to go, but hey, show up down at NECA tomorrow at 8 o'clock, right? Like, that's an issue. So I think trying to minimize that kind of trauma as well for that process is helpful.
Thank you. So, without trying to do like a formal vote, I just want to get a sense from each of you whether you would like to try and just make a couple of modest changes from the suggestions early in the meeting, or anything more significant, and take action on this tonight. Do you want more time to think about it? How would you like to handle it? Kevin?
I think that the changes were minor and just verbiage. We could easily do that tonight. And Mr. Johnson would do a corrected version. And again, it's, as the chief had mentioned, we could take any part of this and go down a rabbit hole. It's really something to get a baseline. This is how we're going to interact with people and the expectations.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm hearing Kevin say he'd be prepared to move it forward tonight. John?
I wrote down the two changes that I have there, very minor in terms of language. One is literally one word and the other is 3 or 4 words.
So you'd be prepared to put those forward and then take action tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Andrew?
I would be willing to do that as well.
Thanks. Carter?
Yeah, same. Insertion of the MVI tool, just to help give more backbone to the environmental protection zones.
Okay, so since I have a clear indication that we'd like to move forward tonight, John, why don't we start with your changes? And we're just going to do these again by acclamation. We're not trying to take formal votes. We'll just ask if everybody's comfortable with the change, and then move to the next one.
So the first one is at the bottom of the second page in section 3A, paragraph 4, other sensitive municipal sites. And it's simply changing the bold print word water at the beginning of the next to last line to utility.
Okay, everybody comfortable with that? John described it earlier. Anybody not comfortable with it? Okay, and Travis Gaines, can you take a few notes? Do you have a pen?
I've already taken them.
Okay, great. So, because Travis has our final version, so he'll be able to make these changes most easily for.
And the second change that I had is in section 3D on the third page, in the second bullet point, to change it so that it reads, the location is within an area designated by any government entity as environmentally sensitive, protected, or ecologically fragile.
Got it.
People comfortable with that change? Okay, and those are your only two to offer, John?
Yes.
Okay, so Carter, I think we're with you then.
Yeah, so with that rewording, I don't know if it's redundant or necessary to include the municipal vulnerability index, but it's just it's actually a bunch of map layers that are updated semi-regularly that include the FEMA flood maps too, so.
So it's actually a tool that would document all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know the best way to, we could put just like a link to it, I suppose, and I can send that to Travis, so he has the final.
You
I
could
don't
even
know.
add a sentence if you want that says
Yeah.
something like the municipal vulnerability index may provide a useful tool.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That would be under 3D.
Yes.
Yeah.
3D as a part of the second item.
Second bullet point.
And what was the acronym for that?
MVI.
You can send me a link to that.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay. Carter, do you have other changes that you'd like to propose?
No, the one issue about due process, it does ring to me, where it seems like in some scenarios, it's understandably a health and human safety element. But if that's clear and just consistent throughout this document, because in general, I think a notice is part, and it sounds like that's part of their approach, anyways, without this ordinance, which is wonderful to hear, but just being consistent and having that really defined, I don't know if that needs to, if others kind of read it that way.
It's hard to help you with that one without
Yeah.
a specific.
Yeah, so, let's see.
So one way to at least cross-reference it, if
Yeah.
I can jump in,
Mm-hmm.
would be in the introductory sentence in section 3, the last 3 or 4 words with no prior notice required. Just change it to read in accord with the requirements of section 4, period. And that ties it all together so that it's all in one place.
Beautiful.
That way it does require some notice.
Can you say that one more time, John? I have the section.
So section 3, the introductory paragraph,
Yeah.
toward the end of the second line, strike the words "with no prior notice required"
Yep.
and replace them with "in accord with the requirements of section 4."
You got it.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty handy, isn't
Pretty
it?
handy. Yeah.
You can tell he might do this for a living or something.
Contracts?
Carter, does that take care of your
I'm peachy.
remaining concerns? Andrew, anything you want to lift up?
No, that was.
Okay, Kevin, you're okay? Okay. Having heard those comments, no, we're not going to go back to public comment tonight on this. Having heard those comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the City of Newport ordinance on regulation of encampments in public and sensitive areas as amended, with the understanding that Travis Gaines will provide a copy of that to the clerk and to Carrie tomorrow.
Is tomorrow okay? I can get it done tonight.
No, tomorrow should be just fine. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further comment from the council? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. And I just want to say I am deeply grateful to the folks on the task force who've been laboring over this. And I'm also deeply grateful to the folks in the community, some of whom have come to every single meeting and offered all kinds of improvements on this document. I think this was draft 4 before tonight, if I remember correctly. So thank you to everyone who participated. 5, sorry, Travis. Jennifer?
Just Jennifer Hopkins, Newport. Could you review the process of adopting an ordinance in real time? Because the fact that you've approved it does not mean it goes into effect.
That's a really good question.
We got 90 days.
Yeah, there's a
for
review
appeal. Well,
process,
60
right?
90 days.
I think it's not 90, I think it's 60, if I remember correctly. So
So
there's
just
a,
so if anybody has any complaints, you do have a review process that is in state law.
Mr. Clerk, do you have any?
It's gotta be noticed in the paper within 14 days of passage, they have 44 days to appeal, and it goes into effect 60 days after it's passed.
So what does the notice in the paper need to say?
It's just the ordinance.
It will actually print the full ordinance in the paper. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan, that's a good point. Ann?
The same language that John just changed in the general section 3 appears in 3E as well. It also has without prior notice, and obviously if it was changed in the top, it should be changed in 3E as well, to conform with the same language that John just offered, that would take out that prior notice language, without prior notice language. So I ask you to make that one amendment, since you've done it with respect to one part.
Okay, I hear the point. I think we could call that a friendly amendment even after the fact. Council members, do you have a concern about that?
No, I overlooked that one. That's fine with me.
Rick,
Okay.
can I just raise one?
Yep.
If a person pitched their tent on the shoulder of the roadway or within 10 feet, which would fall in violation of those sensitive areas, you couldn't in good conscience give them 72 hours to move.
No, this is true.
No,
But-
that would fall under 4C, removal
That's right.
immediately.
Okay, so
Yeah.
That remains the
sensitive
same.
areas, we're maintaining that.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. What section is that again?
Okay.
The change would be to
3E.
the first bullet point in 3E, taking out the words without prior notice and substituting
Same verbiage?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, we've done a good job of dealing with that. I just want to make sure, Mr. Clerk, that it's okay with you that we just amended the vote after the fact. Do you want another vote to make it totally
Okay,
clear?
with me. It's the same wording.
It's the same wording. We're just going to make that minor improvement. Okay? So Travis Gaines will get you a copy of that final language by tomorrow, and he'll provide it to Carrie Schultz as well. And then you'll take care of getting it published in the paper, Jim?
Okay, you're not gonna vote on this again, this is it.
This is it. This is the final version to be shared with the
Give me
public.
the final thing, and I'll take care of it.
Okay. Anything else, everybody? Well done. Thank you very much. All right. The next item on the agenda is let's see, consideration of, this is going to be fun, consideration of a short-term loan for $2.827 million for the East Side Water Tower in anticipation of a 25-year bond to be arranged in 2026. And I will just apologize in advance. The final paperwork came through early or mid-afternoon today. Carrie sent it to the council members immediately upon our receipt. We really have to take action, council members, on this tonight, because tomorrow the construction line of credit comes due, and if we don't take action on this tonight, we got no way to pay it off. So this is a choice, kind of without a choice here. However, I just want to, this is complicated stuff. You all got a packet at your table there, and I want to pull mine out. I'm sure I can find it here. Everybody should pull your packet that you found at your table when you came in. So here's what's going to happen. We have a number of documents. We're going to look at each of them and take action. On the very top, actually, there's a motion that I think we're looking for that will then allow us all to sign all the rest. Okay, so I'm going to read that motion. You all have a copy of it in front of you on council. This is crafted by our attorneys, and I apologize, and I know Dave Rue apologizes. He was with us and had to go for another commitment, so he was not able to stick for this. This would be, the action that we would ask from all of you would be a motion to it, and we would do this after we review all of the items in the packet, okay? But we would take action to adopt the resolution for capital improvement borrowing and to approve the loan commitment, the promissory note, tax certificate, and other related loan documents associated with the city's issuance of a bond anticipation note to Passumpsic Savings Bank in the amount of $2.827 million, associated with construction of the city's East Side Water Tower project, and to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign any documents necessary, needed, or advisable to issue the bond anticipation note. Okay? We've been talking about this for months. We've gone over and over and over it. This is the stuff that finally will actualize it. So I'll tell you that the way that we came up with the $2.827 million is we took $4.985 million that was estimated back in 2021 to be the likely total cost of this project, which included securing the land and the right-of-way to build the East Side Water Tower, the actual construction of the water tower, the new reservoir cover, and installation of residential water meters. All of those were covered in that initial bond approval in 2021. Then in 2025, it became evident that we were going to actually complete the project. And when we went, Carter and I and a few other people went to the Vermont Bond Bank thinking that it was be a fairly simple process to arrange for the bond, we discovered that it was not as simple as we expected, and that there was some due diligence that would have to happen that would require it to be put off until 2026. That created a problem for the council, which is that our charter requires that if we borrow for longer than a year for any reason, or if we try to extend a loan beyond a year, that would be included, that we would have to go to the voters to get their permission to borrow. So that was the item number 2, as I recall, if I recall correctly, in the ballot initiatives that were put before the voters in August, was to ask for permission for a short-term note that would cover us until the Vermont Bond Bank can work it out with us to issue the bond next year. So we've been in contact with the folks at the Vermont Bond Bank. They lead us to believe that it will be fairly straightforward, just a matter of jumping through the appropriate hoops. We'll have a deadline of sometime in early December to get the documentation in front of them. If all goes smoothly and we manage to meet all of the requirements, which appear to be basically the same requirements that we've just met for the loan from Passumpsic short term, if we can work all of that out, then I expect we will be included in the spring bond pool, and we would have the money available by April. If for some reason that gets delayed, the next bond pool would be August. So tonight, the action that we would be finally taking would be to approve the $2.827 million, which is the full amount of the 4.985 minus the actual grant money that we received to defray the cost of building and carrying out these items. Okay, that's how we came up with the 2.827 million. And you'll remember the bond, the vote in August was for up to $3 million. Okay, so we're actually not going after quite as much as we thought we might have to. Do you have any questions about the whole package, like what it is we're aiming for at a big picture level? Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. So, if you go through your packet, I believe the first item you'll find is just a one-pager that has the Passumpsic Savings Bank municipal bond advance on revolving and refunding note. It's dated October 7th. Do you all have that one-page paper? It has the terms, which is that we're borrowing $2.827 million at a rate of 5.06% per year. And basically, if we take action to approve this tonight, we would each sign off on that. We'll pass these down the row and sign off. Item 2 is the City of Newport Resolution Bond Anticipation Borrowing, which I've now read 3 times this afternoon. I think it's fairly straightforward. This is basically the formal language that we are approving as members of council to move ahead with the loan. That's item 2. Item 3 is a certificate of Newport, Vermont tax certificate, bond anticipation borrowing. Honestly, feels like the same documents we've already been signing, but I'm not in charge. It's the lawyers who tell us what the legal requirements are for each of these. And I will say that both Pasumsic's attorneys and Dave Rue from SPNF have carefully reviewed these documents multiple times, and that's how we finally got to the sign-off this afternoon. Kevin?
On the first page of that bond anticipation borrowing,
Yep.
the third paragraph where it says Pasumsic Savings Bank, should it be a C instead of an X on the end of Pasumsic?
You're on the tax certificate bond anticipation borrowing document?
The City of Newport Resolution Bond Anticipation Borrowing.
One back, hold on. Okay, and you're in line, which one?
Yeah, it should be.
Third paragraph down, it starts, whereas in order to...
I see it, thank you. All right, I'm making that change.
Okay.
I'm initialing it, and we're gonna sign my copy, okay?
So we should all initial it when we get to that
Yes,
point.
that's probably a good idea, it's on that front page. All right, so that's that one. Thank you, nice catch, Kevin. Any other concerns about language that you've seen as you've reviewed these? All right, then the next item, I think that's the last one actually that will need signature. The next item is the government form, information return for tax exempt governmental bonds. And this one, I believe, either Jim or I, according to the motion, if you pass the motion, will be able to sign this one on your behalf.
It's pre-printed for the city treasurer to sign.
Great, so Jim will sign that one. So I'm gonna set that over here. And then the last one in the packet is just to give you a notice that assuming approval of this tonight and that we work out all the final details tomorrow morning with the folks at Pasumsic and the final letter that Dave Rue will authorize based on the decision tonight. What will happen tomorrow immediately upon the arranging of this note is that we will pay off the construction line of credit, which currently is at 1.92, I'm sorry, I'll say it for real, $1,920,241.53. Okay, that will all happen tomorrow. Any questions about all of the pieces that have to be done here? Okay, do I have a motion? I'm going to repeat the motion so that all you have to do is say so moved. Are you ready? Move to adopt the resolution for capital improvement borrowing and to approve the loan commitment, promissory note, tax certificate, and other related loan documents associated with the city's issuance of a bond anticipation note to Pasumsic Savings Bank in the amount of $2.827 million associated with construction of the city's East Side Water Tower project, and to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign any documents needed or advisable to issue the bond anticipation note. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Carter. Do I have a second? I have a second from Andrew. Comments from the community. Ann, go ahead.
Yeah, could you just explain why we are asking for $2.827 million for a short-term loan, and the water, I'm sorry, the, what is it called? The construction line of credit is only $1.9 million that we will be paying off. What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I should have included it in my summary. Thank you for the question. So the reason we're asking for the full $2.827 million is so that we can pay off the promissory, the line of credit for construction. We can pay back the total spending that the city carried out for this project that was not from the line of, covered by the line of credit. And I don't have that exact number in front of me, but I've been told it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000, maybe $350,000 that effectively the city has carried on this project. And this will pay back that to the general fund. So Chip will tell us all about it in 2 weeks. And then third, there is still a significant remainder, and I don't have the exact amount yet, but the understanding is that whatever's left, we will borrow as we need it in order to pay for water meters, so that our goal is to try and do as many water meters as we possibly can. And my suspicion is we're going to get almost all of them done. over the course of the next 8 months to a year because of the ability to access this cash.
And does that 350,000 include whatever final bills JPC card and other folks have?
Yes, thank you. That's another piece that's missing. The JPC card will have some final bills to us, and we don't know exactly what they are. We're still waiting for them. So when we're all done, basically the amount of those final bills and the amount of what the general fund is owed by the project will determine what's left for us to spend on water meters going forward. It's a great question, Ann. Any other questions or concerns from the community? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. So now we're going to take just a moment and play Whisper Down the Lane here.
I pointed at you, you pointed
Okay,
at
Carter,
me.
there's the first one.
Thank you. I give you my pen, thank you.
Okay, here comes the second one, Carter. Jim, the second one does have a line for you to sign as well.
Don't forget to
Yes.
Yeah, so initial on the front of that one. Okay, here comes the third one for a signature. That's it. And I'll take those back and give them to Carrie to sign in the morning. And Jim, this one needs your signature.
Jim, we're on the second page. The rest of us were on the third, and that's initials.
Jim has a signature. This one too.
Yes. Isn't this fun? We get to do this 3 more times forward. Actually, we've done the work on the fire truck. I can sign for that one, I think. Twice more this month, we'll do it. Here. Okay, just here. Okay, that's it. So Jim, I will hand these to Carrie right now and ask her to return them to you first thing in the morning, okay? Carrie, there are the minutes too, if you could get those back to Jim in the morning, please. Okay, ready to move on? Next item on the agenda is a discussion about going after a potential municipal planning grant for a study on alternative energy and energy recapture. Frank was unable to be here tonight, and Carter has volunteered to kind of bring y'all up to date on this.
Yeah. So the idea around this kind of came to a head at a really great time. Conversations around the wastewater treatment facility and operational costs have been on my mind. Thermal networks have been in my orbit just from energy planning work. But other citizens had come to me and said, hey, this is something I would like to see in Newport. Ran into it, because I don't need to go into the details, but it basically came together really nicely because another resident who's a better energy planner than I joined the conversation. Frank and Carrie were brought in from the city planning perspective. And we had a conversation with Debbie New, who is the Community Thermal Networks of Vermont. It's a nonprofit, and she helps communities like ours, all sizes in Vermont, assess and help guide the process if they'd like to explore thermal networks. Formerly a science teacher, so here's the basic gist is there's all types of energy that you can harness. You know, you might be familiar with wind or solar or geothermal. Thermal networks is really similar to geothermal, but instead of using cores to bore down to the earth to stabilize temperatures of our buildings, the thermal networks concept is they're actually sharing and kind of connect on a grid. So instead of moving electricity around, you're actually moving or displacing heat or cooling. It is a technology that's pretty common in Europe. It's making its way into the US of A. There are some limitations, and basically we came to the point where this is interesting to Newport, especially when considering and layering in our economic development, or a downtown development rather. Wherever there's dense development, this is where it succeeds. And so to move forward with next steps, one would be we kind of co-launch it. So we'd have a workshop around this particular thing where we're having brainstorming conversations where we would like to see things go in Newport, where we literally think there is heat and activity for this. But the municipal planning grant would actually help do that, and it's more of like a high level assessment. It's not an engineering study. It is not identifying, it's trying to identify where the best places and where that's most feasible a thermal network could be installed. So St. Johnsbury, they did a more in-depth engineering study, so they're like 2 steps ahead. Bellow Falls is in the middle of this, and
Those are the 2 that I know about.
and there's one more, I can't remember, and I'm sorry. But so there are other communities in Vermont and in the NEK that are looking into this. So, and the other piece with the municipal planning grant is always, it's the best application aligns with your regional and local plans, and both this geothermal and just community sharing of energy aligns, and there's a language in each. So Frank and Carrie agreed to take this on, and there's a small match, and I know of another small little tiny grant that we can pursue. So literally not, if all these things fall into place, this would be used to do a high level feasibility study for thermal networks. I don't know if I rambled too much.
No, I think that's good. I'll just add that a municipal planning grant you can apply for up to $30,000. It's a 10% match. So the city would be on the hook for $3,000 if we got the grant. This would be, I think of it almost like last year's VHB kind of, here's the broad vision of what your downtown could look like. That doesn't go deep enough to, how would we actually do it? You will still need engineering studies somewhere down the road. It's just to get a sense of what's possible in advance of trying to do the development work here, and maybe also in advance of trying to do the engineering survey about the wastewater treatment facility that we've been talking about, right? So both of these things seem like it'd be smart to have this information before we start too deeply down that road.
Right. And this is a great thing to have already in hand to then turn on if something breaks, or if we're starting to break ground, we have this to apply for more grants. This is a keystone in that. So,
So I'm inclined to actually hear any concern or questions that folks in the community have, and council members, I think it would be smart for us to go ahead and vote to support the development of this proposal for a municipal planning grant if the way be clear, because the problem is our next meeting is on the 20th, the deadline is right at the end of the month, and I suspect we'll be pushing right up against the deadline to do a good proposal. So instead of having to come back for a special meeting, I wonder if tonight you all would be comfortable with the idea of of saying, yes, we support this, assuming that the way opens. So are there comments and questions that you all have about that? And then we can ask people in the community as well.
It's pretty straightforward.
So the thermal network is actually what Jay Peak does with the hockey rink and the water park, in the sense that the waste heat from the hockey rink supports the water park and vice versa.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Folks in the community, any comments or questions? Pam, go ahead, please.
Go for it. Europe's been doing it for decades.
Right.
And you can learn from what they did that didn't work, which was a really novel thing for the USA. They don't bother to ask you, which is why they have the wind towers screw up. But get the information, it's available.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dave.
You can only apply for grants through that mechanism once a year.
Yes.
So this will be a 2025 grant, and then we won't be able to apply for anything else in 2026, correct?
My understanding is that it's a fairly quick turnaround. You find out if you're approved fairly quickly. And then I think you can't have more than 2 open municipal grants. But I don't want to be held to that. I'm not sure exactly. But the answer is we would want to move pretty quickly on this, given all the other development ideas we're kicking around in this wastewater treatment facility as well.
And I just want to make sure that we don't harm ourselves or something else we might need.
Right.
Bellow Falls put out the RFP, got a timely response, and I mean, this is like looking into the crystal ball of what it would like, which is we get approved for this grant, then we post the RFP. So I would hope that we could expeditiously look into this, and it's kind of right now just an investigation. So I would hope that it would be not encumber any future ideas around planning.
Yeah, the idea would be to move as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And close it out as quickly as possible.
Yes.
So if we got this grant, who would be kind of in charge of making sure it gets done? And
Given some of our history, that's a good question, isn't it?
My understanding is Frank and Carrie would.
Yeah, Frank would be the lead as grants administrator with support from Carrie. And they would be the leads on trying to pull the proposal together with a lot of support from Carter and a few other of these folks in the community. Okay, if there's no further comment or question, Carter, do you want to make a motion? Get this thing through?
I'd like to make a motion to approve of the plan, for the municipal planning grant application.
Yeah, I think we're actually asking for approval to move forward and submit a municipal planning grant application if the way be clear.
All right.
For up to $30,000. Let's put that in it too.
Yeah. Okay, do we try it again?
I think we just did it. If you want to say
No,
that's my
sounds
motion.
great.
All right,
Is
so
that
I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. Do I have any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda, conversation about the 2026-2027 budgeting process and priority-based budgeting. Carter, do you want to take this one or do you want me to?
You go for it.
Okay.
You're concise, I'll ramble.
So this one, we've mentioned a few times,
Yeah.
kind of obliquely. About 6 weeks ago now, Carter and I asked for a meeting with Kathleen Ramsey from VLCT with the specific question, how could we improve the level of community engagement in our budgeting process? And I had read in a number of areas about zero-based budgeting as opposed to incremental budgeting. Kathleen came back and said, yeah, you know, that's kind of corporate speak, but in municipal planning, there is a movement around what's called priority-based budgeting. And I don't want to go too far into the weeds about what that is tonight, but the general idea is that over a period of several years, as you commit to priority-based budgeting, you create more and more opportunity for members of the community to envision together the community they want to live in and the things that are most important to them. And then, insofar as possible, you allow those ideas and priorities to bubble up through and kind of define the priorities in the budget. So tonight, what we're trying to do is actually just lay out a process that would be a half or maybe a third of a step in this direction. Because it's, in my judgment, I think Kathleen and Carter and I came to the conclusion that we're just too late in the game to try and start with a full-on priority-based budgeting process. But we've talked with the department heads about this, and basically with the council's approval, the way that we would lay it out, and you've got this document in front of you, would be that we will have a final audit delivered this week. I expect it by the end of the week. There's just a final little tinkering that's going on between Chip and the auditors to make sure we've got all the numbers right. That we would have, once that audit is done, Chip and Carter and the finance task force will together create the recommended chart of accounts for the general ledger that we want to encourage us to move into. Because remember, we're working on this 30-year-old chart of accounts that has become so unwieldy as to be maddening to a lot of people, both on council and in the community. The council would take action on the new chart of accounts at our next meeting on the 20th, assuming we can pull that off. And then the following 3 weeks, the staff would go to work on their budgets using the new chart of accounts together with an explanation for what things from the old chart of accounts have been combined or changed to create the new chart of accounts. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge this year because we've got to figure out how we're comparing apples to apples. So Chip will help us with a kind of a table that shows us what went into each line item in the new chart of accounts. Okay? So the staff would work on that. Each person would work on discussing, kind of synthesizing their own recommendations, and they would be asked to come up with rationales for the priorities that they're emphasizing in the choices that they're making. And my goal would be to meet with them, each of the department heads, during that 3-week period, so that I fully understand what it is they're recommending. And then on November 17th, the goal would be for the members of the department heads to come back to the council and make presentations about the rationales underneath their choices and what they're presenting for both the council and the members of the community to begin to ask questions. Actually, the first week my recommendation is that we do a first reading where you will have had, hopefully, 3 to 5 days to look at it. You all can ask some initial questions. I don't think we would take questions from the community that night, so that people in the community would have a fair chance to really read and absorb the document. And then at the next meeting, by December 1st, we would have an opportunity for the community residents to really engage and ask their own questions, raise concerns about the way that we're crafting the budget. Council consideration would happen then on the 15th of kind of a second, or maybe by then it may even be a third round of the budget. You all would take a look at it and say, okay, this is what we're standing on as we go into the new year. And our recommendation, which we have a separate line item to take action on tonight on the agenda, would be to create a Newport New Year new budget event, basically, that would be the equivalent of what would be called a town meeting in any other town if we had it on March 3rd instead of our Australian ballot. It would be similar to that, done early enough so that we can actually hear, we council members can actually hear, and department heads can hear from the community about what they think about this budget. So we picture something that would have more than one item on the agenda that day. It would be a longer agenda. I insist, because I love Lowell's town meeting, that we'll have to eat hot dogs and macaroni salad, because that's what you do at a town meeting as far as I'm concerned. So we would do it probably in the gymnasium downstairs. We'd have some kids activities. It would be about community building, but also really to give an opportunity to go deeply into this. The following week would be budget week, and I've asked the department heads to plan to be here both on the 10th and not to be out of town the following week, so that anything that we've heard that might adjust our final expectations, the department heads can review. And then finally, the 26th of January, council would have a final version of the budget to consider and to take action on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think that's still in time to appropriately warn the meeting on March 3rd.
Close, but I think you're okay.
Okay. So that gets us through this year, and then later on, depending on how this all goes, we'll come back and talk about starting the whole process earlier and with a deeper level of community engagement kind of before the department heads begin to do their work at all for next year. So that's what we've got. Do y'all have questions or concerns or ideas first from council, and then we'll hear in the community? Hold on just a second. Any questions or concerns from the council? Okay, Andrew, if you keep an eye on timekeeping again for us.
It's not gonna take me that.
Go ahead, Charlie.
So the only thing I will guard you against on condensing the budget, which is probably part of what you have in mind, is that your group changes frequently. And if you condense it too much, they don't know what's in there. So if you're gonna do that, you should have a manual with it on what's in each line. It's just a
That's
suggestion,
great advice.
because otherwise it's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Second part, as president of the ambulance service, we completed our budget this afternoon. So I've been to a lot of meetings.
Show off.
This is about the size of yours. It's around $6 million. So I don't know when you want. I would like to meet with the council at some point to explain our budget. A lot of new faces. I've done it for years in the past, and then so let me know when you want it.
I suspect it would be sometime in that process this fall, and if you're gone, we'd do it by Zoom.
Well, I want to do it before.
That may or may not be possible. You and I can talk about it.
All right.
We got a lot on our agenda this month.
All right. Well, I'm here next month.
Good. Okay, good. Then it probably is possible. Jennifer?
All right, so I'm back here laughing because it's like the second time tonight that I'm agreeing with Mr. Pronto.
Oh, I hate this.
It's
Wait a minute. You should love it. It's coming to.
So, one of the issues historically for us as residents understanding the budget is that you can put a line item in that says like repairs and maintenance, but we have no knowledge as to what that involves. And it was our understanding that there were supporting documents that basically broke down the repairs and maintenance category with all the entries that would be added together to arrive at that, cumulative amount. If we as residents are going to be allowed a voice in this process, I would ask that you, as Mr. Pronto was talking about, make some sort of a manual or supply access links or something to those subline items, so that we can actually have some knowledge as to what it is that we're speaking to.
Noted.
The other thing I wanted to say is I just want to thank you guys so much. It is like night and day from last year to this year in reference to the audit being timely, prepared and available prior to the budgeting process. And I just absolutely say thank you. It's the responsible thing to do, and I'm just so happy.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your words of affirmation too. Any other comments or questions from the community residents? Council, I don't know that we need a formal item about this, or a formal vote on this tonight, except,
Could
go
you
ahead.
color code the priorities?
I don't know, we'll see when we get there.
You know what I'm saying? That might simplify things.
We got a long way to go before we're there, but yes, maybe.
All right.
So I don't think we need action to approve the exact timeline we put forward, as long as everybody knows where we're headed. And I think the next item would be to actually vote on having a special town meeting on January 10th. So that's the only item. So unless there's any other comment or question, we'll move on to the next one. Is that okay?
I'm really excited.
All right. Okay, so moving on to item number 8. This now needs no greater explanation. Do I have a motion, and we can have conversation after we get it on the table, to hold a special town meeting for informational purposes on January 10th from, let's go ahead and say from 10 to 3. We can always amend it later if we decide we don't want to change the times. So people know that it's a day-long event, not just an evening or something.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, a second, and I got a second. So what y'all want to say about that? Kevin, you
Already scheduled it.
You've already scheduled it?
That's what I was doing. We're good to go.
Great. Okay. John, any comments, questions? Andrew? No. Carter? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one is similar. It's really just trying to lay out the thinking that mostly I've been doing on this one so far and inviting council into that conversation, that thinking. So there is a background document that is available to folks here. I'll just say that I started, when I first became mayor, numerous people said we should really pay attention to the charter, and I agreed and said I think that's probably a conversation for another term or maybe a term after that. I began to shift my own thinking about that around a couple of items this summer. One was, the most important for me this summer was a recognition that the debt limits set in the charter are likely to make it potentially impossible for us to do any kind of bond initiative on public works in order to get development to happen in downtown Newport. That we've assumed enough debt now that we would have to be really concerned and careful about that. So one of the things that I think needs to be addressed in the charter is that question. I think there are other items as well. Another one for me is I would like to see a far simpler document with a far greater amount of clarity about what the role of the council is, the role of the mayor, if we choose to distinguish the mayor from the council. There's debate about that, and whether or not, and what the role of the city manager is. And I would really like us to have that conversation before we try and write a job description for the next city manager and do a search. I'd really like that to be clarified. And there are 3 or 4 other items, I think, among many. So I went to our habit, just so folks know in the community, and you all should know too, council members, I have really tried hard not to constantly go to the attorneys. But mostly what I've been doing is every 4 to 6 weeks, I gang together all the things I can think of that are on my mind at the moment. I write a letter detailing them, like just 1 or 2 paragraphs, to David Rue. And then I ask if we could have a meeting to discuss them. So I included this in a laundry list back in August with David Rue before I went on vacation. And he said, if we wanted to try and do a new charter, what would the requirements be, and is it even possible to imagine that we could pull that off, this in the next fiscal year? And basically what he said to me was, yes, you could, in theory at least, if you had strong enough agreement and consensus in your, an agreement among your council members, you could pass a new charter, you could put it out for public comment in a variety of ways, you could finally pass that. You could put the charter out, you could ask for community engagement, and then you could finally come back and pass that charter, and you could theoretically do that by January 26th in order to warn it along with the other items that will be warned for the election on March 3rd. And if it were passed by the voters, if we got to all of that, and I'm saying there's a lot of hot hoops to get through between here and there, but if that worked, then you could then send it on to the legislature, where there would need to be action to approve it finally by legislature. And I've been led to believe by some of our local legislators that that also is within the realm of possibility. So what I'm laying out tonight is, it's got all kinds of places where something could happen differently, where it could mess us up and we don't quite get there. It's just a kind of a wish list about how we might move ahead on a charter review. So if you all agree tonight that this is the general process that we would like to see if we can make happen. Oh, there's one more piece you should know. Dave Rue gave me 5 cities that they have worked with that he thinks have done exemplary work on charter revisions. And I read them on my vacation. You can thank me later. And it's actually kind of fun. I mean, I've now read them more than once, and I've added to his list. I think his list included Winooski, South Burlington, Williston, Montpelier. You remember, Carrie? I can't remember the last one, but there was one more in that list. Oh, Westford, the town of Westford, which I think has an 8-page document for their entire charter. And then I added St. Albans and St. Johnsbury to my list as I was looking at them. So if you all approve it, what we would do is Carrie and I would spend the next 2 weeks trying to pull together, kind of starting with a document that seems to be closest to what we would want, and then tries to lay out what the decision points would be within that document for the council to consider. So it would not necessarily be, here's the final language we should use. It would be, here's a choice that we as council would have to make about how we want to handle this matter, right? And we would bring that back for council consideration in an open session on the 20th of October to just get it out there and begin to test the waters. Then on November 3rd, we would take public comments on the same questions. People in the community could give us their own thoughts and ideas about that. And then if it feels as if we're moving towards something that could actually be consensus in the community, that there's a lot of people in the community who feel like we're on the right track, then we would consider whether or not we're ready to move forward on the 17th of November. And I'll just say about that, it's remarkable to me as I talk with people in the community, even when we may disagree about how we interpret the current charter, there's often agreement about the imprecise language or the challenges around the current charter. So I don't think it's impossible to imagine that we could get to some substantive conversation that people can really agree on what the questions are. If all of that went well, we would give it over to the city attorneys in the month of December, ask them to make any comment they want to make on it. We would bring it back to the council. Maybe we could even pull it off by the 5th of January, our first meeting in January. And we would try and create time on that informational town meeting agenda on the 10th of January to hear more comment and to have substantive discussion about it. And if all of that went really well, then actually the date is wrong there. It wouldn't be January 19th because that's a holiday. It would be January 26th. At the council meeting, we would determine whether or not we are close enough to try and push forward for a vote in the community. And then finally, and that date is wrong too, it's not March 4th, it's March 3rd.
But you have it.
Sorry. We would, if we had moved that far, we would take it to the voters. So I'd love to hear what y'all have to say about this remarkably aggressive proposal. And I'll hear from you all and then take comments from the community as well.
I also, this is something I do engage with my neighbors about, not all the time, but it is kind of an undercurrent. And so, and I do agree with, as far as like hiring a city manager, everybody wants that, but it's, the charter currently is difficult to proceed with that. And then, so, I don't know, that it will get us to the means, the ends and the means to have a well-functioning city.
I think that this is definitely doable. I think we can make this happen.
I love optimism.
No, I do. I think this has been on everybody's mind, for several years now, and I think it just needs to be. If we don't do it now, it won't get done. We'll keep kicking the can. So.
Thank you, John.
It's definitely an aggressive time frame. The city manager piece, it seems to me, is pretty simple. If we simply follow what the state law says about city managers, we'd have far more clarity on that point and far more consistent expectations on the part of candidates with Vermont experience. We don't need to write a book on it. State statutes outline it pretty well.
Kevin?
I agree the charter needs to be reviewed, but I'm also hearing Dan Ross's voice in my head. It's a historical document. We need to keep it someplace so we can remember where we came from.
That's interesting. I should say about that, according to Dave Rue, it is possible, rather than trying to continue to tinker with that document that becomes more and more unwieldy, to move to strike and save it for historical purposes. We can even make some reference to it, right? And then basically start over with clean language that is understandable by the average person without having to read a, what is it now, 88 or 90 page document, I think.
Right, and there are some parts of it that are entirely archaic that need to be removed. But the document itself is part of Newport's history. And I don't know what he envisioned, but he said we need to save it as it is so we can see where we came from.
But probably the only historic part of it that needs to be saved is the legal description of the boundaries of the city, because if you strike that, then the city no longer exists.
Well, I'm told, Dave did say to me that there are ways to manage that process without having 2 pages of, you know, then it goes to Aunt Rosie's barn where the cow used to be and turns right, which is kind of almost how it reads right now. Members in the community, y'all have thoughts or ideas you want to share? Jennifer?
Jennifer Beerling, Newport. I'm afraid, okay, with the way this is being handled. I feel like it's happening in a time frame that involves all the holidays, so people aren't going to be paying attention. It is a document that is effectively a contract between the city of Newport and its residents on how it is going to govern our city. And yet I'm feeling as though one of the parties to this contract is in some ways being marginalized. I have no idea what you envision for making information available to, you know, the public, the residents, to have ample time to read and digest the contents. I mean, this is going to be legal language, and it's going to be dense, and it's going to take some time to work through and really understand not just what the intentions are, but also what the unanticipated consequences are. So it's worrying me. I had hoped that, you know, the residents might be afforded a voice at the table in this process. It's clear to me from tonight's discussion that's not being considered by the council. I find that unfortunate. I mean, it is our governing document, and I think that we should have a voice. I just am suspect of the timing of it. I'm suspect of the velocity at which it's being put through. I'm afraid. I am afraid. And we know that this document is a mess. And we know that this document can be used to one's advantage, the way it's set up right now. And that is not necessarily aligning with the best interests of the city. We know all this. We know it is an absolute dumpster fire, and it needs to be cleaned up. We all are aware of that. I'm not sure the proposed process is appropriate.
Thank you. Pam?
Conrad, here's another first. I agree with Jennifer.
What a remarkable evening.
There we go. Imagine that. And I also hear Dan Ross's voice, because I sat in a lot of meetings with Dan. What you're proposing would have him ripping his hair out. It has me ripping my hair out because we, the citizens, are being excluded from this process. And it's being done in a really, before I was so rudely interrupted, being done in a sort of sneaky, paternalistic way, and that just does not feel okay. And I'm really tired of hearing, all we have to do is fix the charter and we can handle the city manager issue. That is not what the issue with the charter is. It may be a piece of it, but it does not boil down to that. Our problems will not all be solved if we have a city manager. We actually have one. We have Chip right now. And that's how he's functioning. So let's not pretend that that's what it comes down to. Whatever this is about and why it's being rammed through just does not feel okay.
Thank you. Charlie?
Well, I don't think the charter is as much of a mess as the rest of you do, apparently. But I have one on my desk in my office, and I've referred to it for the last 35 years. I understand it pretty well. So, my concern, I think it's too aggressive a timeline myself, because it's way too important, so the world really must be coming to an end. So, I think we ought to keep in mind what the original founders and what the people have. I'm a proponent of a strong city council that may hire a city manager. I don't think you should be locking yourself into it. And that's what our charter says now. Because you may decide you want a financial person and a really good administrator. You don't want to lock your hands up. And what I've been hearing about some of the problematic areas in the past have been because we've had a poor city manager and a poor city council both. So but keep in mind that's not the norm. May have been in the last 15, 20 years, but there's been some really strong mayors and some really strong councils, and they've done a lot of good work. So I think changing if the point is to change the intent of the city council, then this is way, or the charter, this is way too aggressive a timeline, in my
Thank you, Sharon. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I guess I will support the prior three. Also, I sat on 2 charter review committees. We ended up, one of them was created only because of a problem in the city between the city manager and the mayor. That was resolved, so it didn't go anywhere. The other one, we effected some changes, but nobody wanted to address it. But I think we spent years, which is perhaps too much, trying to come up with a consensus. We tried to build on the old charter, which might or might not be correct. There's a lot that's in there. I think the key thing we have is a level of checks and balances. And I think if anything else screams you need checks and balances that are valid, it is what's happening on a national level right now. And I think that to do this in a rush job, when you can't really think through some of these things, you might just sell yourselves down the soul. And the other thing is, I really would worry if the key reason for doing this is to raise the debt ceiling.
Can you say the last again? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I think the main thing is raising the debt ceiling, the amount we can borrow. When I think that is one of the things that right now we are stressing out the citizens of Newport. And I think development is fine, but I've been traveling around and there's a lot of empty stores, a lot of places around the US. I don't know that people are going to come to Newport, nor that we would be happy if they did. But I think that yes, you need some improvement, but this whole time frame and for the rationale, I think you have to be very, very careful.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Chris?
Yes, I think about hiring a city manager in relationship to the old charter. And it does seem to me that there was a nice check and balance that existed, so that when we had a rather forceful town manager who seemed to scare the council, at least we all knew that there was a charter there that could, if the council wanted it to, have real force. I don't think it happened that way, but it did provide some checks and balances. And when I look at what a city manager is in terms of the state statute, if we wanted to adopt their language, it allows the city manager to fill in anything or any control that you would normally give to any one of your department heads. If it's absent, it's not in there, that's what the department head does. The city manager has that control. The city manager does anything that's missing in what the council is supposed to do. So I think it gives an awful lot of power to a city manager. And, if your council is not strong enough and willing to fire for cause, and maybe at will, depending upon what you believe in terms of that, you've got a real problem. And maybe if we wanted a stronger mayor, we should pay him for all. The last two mayors have done an enormous amount of work, and we should think about, where the salary goes if that's what we're going to do. So I think there's a lot of things to think about.
Thank you. Any other comments from the folks in the community? Council members, you have some thoughts or ideas you want to share? Kevin?
One comment. Regardless of the time frame we use, it's obviously really important to get the information out there. And I was wondering, is it possible, like informational mailings, just send residents, this is going to be the next meeting, these are some of the changes that are happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything we would do in preparation, particularly in preparation for that January 10th meeting, budget-wise, regarding anything we would want to move on the charter. I would expect that we would want a pretty thoughtful, carefully laid out plan for communicating with community residents, much like the one we did this summer in anticipation of the vote in August.
But these are gonna go out and
Hold on, please, not unless you recognize.
Okay.
Other members of council?
Duly noted, appreciated. The comments are on the timeline and just perspectives and your experience. I'm 6 months sitting here, so I just appreciate those that have come and sat here before.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is really the time frame. I just see it as way too aggressive.
So how would you all like to proceed?
Well, the process needs to start. And maybe the place to start is just to gather information from other charters that seem to be more up to date. Because in general, we're working within the confines of those areas in which the state legislature has authorized cities and towns to even have any authority. We're really dealing with defined areas, municipal utilities, roads, police, fire, and so on. There are limits on how creative the charter's going to get in that sense. But seeing how other towns are doing it, that both have managers and administrators will be helpful. Because there are towns that have the administrator model as opposed to the manager model. So it makes sense to see examples of both.
Yep.
I still think that this is an important thing to look into, and I understand the March 4th and having that approved. Oh my gosh, part of the chairs on me. Sorry. So, still think this is valuable to look into, and as you said in your intro, that there's many pitfalls, or there could be many reasons why this doesn't exactly adhere to this plan. I still think it is valuable to look into, to have it brought to the table as far as identifying areas that you'd like to change, gathering input, and I still think it'll be valuable to have on our new budget, Newport, new year, sorry if I messed up the order, and just have that conversation, whether it is this is our final draft, or this is, hey, these are the big common themes that we're talking about, even if it gets delayed to the next year's round of approval, then going to the chamber and things like that. Because like Andrew said, we don't want to just be like, oh, too late to do anything on it this year. But I still think that there is a lot of energy and positive attention and community engagement right now that I would like to harness.
Andrew?
I do think, it is aggressive, that timeline, but I think if we don't set a date, we're gonna surpass that, and we're gonna just keep going with it. We'll never accomplish the rewrite or revamping of it. I think we need to set a date, a finish date of, because if we don't, then we won't, I don't believe it'll get finished.
So here's what I'm hearing. No, I'm not going to take more public comment tonight. We have too long an agenda. We've got plenty to get started. What I'm hearing is that y'all would like to at least open the conversation. You'd like to see some other towns, sister towns, and to do some reading, and to perhaps kind of lay out some of the pivot points, the places where there might be decisions and choices to be made. So I will address with all of you and just say something that I've already said in the written document, which is that it was obvious to me already in August that this is not something that lends itself to a task force. And the reason I believe that is because I had people with diametrically opposed opinions about both the current charter and what a charter should say, immediately insisting that they should be the ones to guide the process. So I'm not prepared to turn this over to another group of people. I think any deliberation we have can easily be led by this group of people, however long it may take, in open session, where we can really have an opportunity to, as my old friend said, cuss and discuss the matters before us. So what I would recommend then is that Carrie and I will take a look at trying to create the kind of baseline and a document, some format in which people could be looking at the same things and anything else they want to look at, obviously, and bring that back, if not in 2 weeks, maybe in the next month. Sometime in the next month, we would put that back on the agenda and come back with some suggestions to get the conversation to the next step.
Mike, can I make one observation? I agree the charter needs to have some updates, but I think you want to go with this until everybody here is comfortable with the document, including the public. So until everybody's comfortable with what you're about to approve.
So, council members, do you have any other comments? And is that an acceptable course of action that we would, over the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll try and do some work to put some documents in front of you all and in front of the community residents, and some kind of ideas about the things that we would want to make sure would be included and decision points around those ideas. Is that all right? Okay, but I don't think we need action tonight on that. I think that's fine. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, everybody in the room, for that. Moving on to item 10. Carter, I think this one is you, right? Consideration of appropriations policy update.
Yes, so if you were here in April or May, basically it came to light that a local, we call it, it's a service agency because this is what the state statute says, but it's basically a nonprofit that operates and helps the residents of the city. So basically a local service agency had submitted a request to be on the ballot. And for whatever reason, that didn't go through. I'm not sure if it was the timing, I really don't know, I was not here. But what it brought to light was that we actually did have a policy for backing up on annual meeting. When you have your ballot, there's a separate section where these services you either approve or deny, and then it's eventually tabulated into the taxes. There was a short and sweet policy, but it needed revision just because it was pretty short, and the person that had submitted the letter, we weren't necessarily following it. So it brought more attention on this. And I'm a little behind, just calling myself out because we're about to talk about our target topics. But nonetheless, this came to the attention of the task force, the Financial Practices Task Force. And peeked around at what our sister cities do, and Morrisville and Morristown had a really nice template that I basically went off of. They also paired it with a very clear website detailing and hyperlinking all of the articles that should be in place and in play for this. And also the forms where people can apply. And also they kind of set up some expectations for these agencies, because I found that in our own most recent report is that about half-ish of the social service agencies actually submitted a write-up of what they do. Gave data around what they do, who and how many visits, how many rides, how many whatever you have, no data around their expenses and how much they're asking for. So it was kind of like, but then you look at St. Johnsbury's annual report and it has a really nice just walkthrough. And they also had a really nice chart of all of the appropriations stacked up. So this is just designed and written basically with that template, and then plus I gave it to the task force to give comments on, then way back, and here we are. So this is kind of a melding of that kind of not gold standard, but it basically has all the state statutes, plus what we had in place, which just to try to give the town clerks a little bit more time, they were accepting applications up until like January 10th, I think was the old, but that's like right up on printing deadline. And this helps it set up to where it's December 1st. So this is why I wanted to, I know we have a heavy agenda today, but I wanted to give time to those social service agencies to have a heads up on that we're kind of changing our practices, or this is what it looks like. I will say the hugest caveat, and at least the expectations, and I would like to have a more robust annual report where they share. Basically, when you submit a petition with 5% of the voters, it ties Jim's hands, like he's got to put it on the ballot. He can't say, well, you haven't submitted this nice little paragraph that Carter would like to put in the annual report. It doesn't work like that. But nonetheless, at least we have a policy that says, hey, we're trying and we would like to have this information from those. I think I probably labored on the points that aren't as important, but...
Can you hit, Carter, can you please just point out what is the standard by which something can be put on the ballot for consideration as an appropriation in this policy?
So this is for funding around nonprofit and social service agencies. So examples, we have the library under there, we have rural community transit, maybe Journey to Recovery, I don't know, the NECA, not Journey, but NECA has some, and then aging.
Area of the aging.
There's a whole laundry list.
It's a nice long
But what I want to
list.
know is, what would it take for an organization to get on the ballot
Understood.
to be considered for an appropriation?
Okay, so this policy, which here's the state statute, which we kind of had, but after the first year, to submit a petition by December 1st with the little description here, you have to get 5% of the registered voters to sign.
And right now, Jim, how many registered voters?
Around 4,000.
So 5% would be 200 signatures.
200 signatures or better.
Yep.
Okay.
But they've got to be voters of the city. If you get 225 of my registered voters, then you got to go back and get some more.
Right.
So you have to hit that benchmark for the first time, and then it's put on the annual, town meeting, the ballot. And then once that's approved, if you get approved the first time, you do not have to go and collect those signatures again. You just have to submit the form saying, hey, it's us again, and we are not changing our ask amount up or down. It's the same, so could you please include us again? Here's our little bullet points. Great. But if you do not get 5% of the voters, Jim's not going to put it on the petition. If it gets put on the ballot, but it's not approved, then the next year that social service agency has to go around and collect more signatures again. But our policy right now says for the first 5 years, that social service agency has to go out and get those signatures. So that's not necessary.
Which isn't actually happening.
He did.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Every organization is coming up with 200 signatures every year?
Yes.
For 5 years?
No, it's not
Everybody
happening.
has been on there, a petition for 5 years. If they get 5 consecutive years,
Yes.
and the amount doesn't go up, and after that, they don't have to get a petition.
Right, so the petition's the petition with the signatures is only required for the first year. If they get, if you verify all the voters.
In the new policy.
In the new policy, yes, correct. In the new policy, verified voters, got your approval, then the public weighed in, the residents voted and said, yes, this is an expense, or this is worthy, whatever. And then moving forward, the second year, they don't have to get another petition. They would submit a form.
Not in
Yes,
the new policy.
yes, within the new policy. They would submit the form by December 1st, which gives you guys runway time to include it.
And what happens after 5 years?
No, there's no change between, after you're approved both by Jim and then the voters, and you submit the application every year moving forward. It's just when you have to increase or decrease your ask that you then have to submit a new petition.
Okay.
Originally, when the organization started out asking for appropriation, they had to get a petition for the first 5 years. And then after that, if the amount didn't go up, they didn't have to get a petition, just get put on the ballot. That's the current policy. We're just waiving the 5-year thing with the new policy.
Okay.
So the other question I had is, does the new policy disqualify an agency that asks for the same amount if they don't provide a description of what they do or what benefit they provide to the city?
No, that's what I was saying is like, although this has an expectation and in hopes and has the it's written somewhere, hey, we would like you to submit a paragraph talking about what services you provide and also explaining your expenses and your revenues and how this helps. But it doesn't require them because again, if they submit that petition, Jim has to put it on regardless if they follow up with that. But at least it's a policy saying, hey, we're trying.
My only other comment is kind of a trivial technical one, but
Love it.
Anywhere it says town, it should be changed to city.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All the way through it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
I see some folks in the community have comments. So Anne, and then Claire, and then Jennifer.
I'm just a little worried about moving the date up. I mean, for the old timers who think that all I have to do is get, a new application in by whatever it is, January 10th or the later date, they could go, unless you send each one of them specifically a note saying you now have to do it by December 1st, they could miss it. And so for the first year, I think there should be a grace period for people who might be late. When they're late, you can then tell them next year, this work, we'll let you get away with it this year, but next year, you gotta do it by December 1st. So
My
that,
assumption also, just so you know, Ann, is that if this were to pass, obviously we would notify individually every group that is already receiving the information. They would all be notified.
Okay.
Can I make a quick comment on that? I don't mind the December 1st thing, but January 10th is plenty of time for me to get it on the ballot. To do it.
Claire?
Been that way for years.
My view on this is different, and I've already started acting on my view when it comes to the votes. I have seen some changes in some of the organizations that have been on the ballot, and I have decided that given, over the last few years, given this financial situation of the city, which I had no idea was at the degree it is currently, but I'm not voting for the city to give money to other organizations until we see steady ability of the city to do the basic things of the city. And is there anybody on the list of these nonprofits that residents cannot donate to on their own? Because if you've got 10 organizations on the list, and I think 5 of them are doing a good job, I can go out and donate to them. I don't have to ask the city to donate in my name or for me. And it's causing some confusion, particularly with the library, because I don't know exactly what the status of the library is, but a great many people, residents, consider the library as a city library. And from what I've heard, it doesn't meet that definition.
Okay, I'm gonna try to shut you down there, Claire, because I'm watching the time. We still have a lot on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
And that's really not the question tonight. Okay?
I'd rather have the funding do
I got
like NPR,
Thank you.
okay?
Jennifer, and then I'm gonna try and move us along.
A couple of things. One is, Carter, I think if they go down, they should be allowed to avoid getting another petition. So make sure it's only if they go up,
Increase.
which is the current policy.
Okay.
Number 2, I think you should have a template, grants have templates of financial reports to put there to find out what's happening, because more than anything else, we have not had an appropriation go down literally before we had Australian ballot and since we've had Australian ballot. It is a sort of no-brainer. And I think that that's the, sort of really important thing, is get the financial reports. They've got to do something as opposed to just get 200 signatures for 5 years.
Okay.
Or 1 year now, sorry. 1 year.
So I'm going to bring it back and ask the council, what's your will? Do you want to take action on this tonight? And if so, somebody want to put a motion on the table?
I like Jennifer's idea about accountability. I remember on one occasion, somebody wanted money for a daycare. They were given a sizable chunk. By the end of September, it was out of business. No idea what happened to the money. So it would be nice to, a financial, whatever it is.
Carter, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that there's enough here to make changes tonight, or should we take it back to the drawing board and come back in a couple of weeks?
I think there's substantive, just as in around the templates idea to try to promote this, and then also the small tweak of city to town. I'm like, dang it, I tried, but I did not do a third amount. So I'm happy, and especially this follow-up piece with the current. So if basically it gets delayed a couple weeks. We approve it at the next city council meeting. If there's that follow through from the city to contact those that are currently on the list to, hey, by the way, this has changed. Also, I was gonna, from this, once it's approved, I was gonna make the form that goes on the website, but I can just do that all within the next couple weeks. So it's a kind of a package deal.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's okay with you if we table this tonight?
Yes.
No, just take no action on it tonight and come back in 2 weeks for another conversation.
Is that all right?
Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you, Carter.
Thank
Then
you.
we'll come back to it in a couple of weeks. Carrie, will you help me remember, please? That on the agenda. Okay, item number 11 is a request that I wanted to make of City Council to hold the November 6th City Council. Do I have that date right?
It's the third. I put it on. It's the third.
It's the 3rd? Thank you, I just realized. So the November 3rd City Council meeting, regular meeting of City Council, I'm recommending that we hold it upstairs at the Gateway Center in the MEMSEC space, which is accessible. There is a working, functioning elevator. I checked to make sure it's still working. And I think it would be really helpful to the members of council and to folks in the community to see the pretty remarkable transformation that's taken place there, in the interest of being good partners to the Memphremagog Science and Education Center. So if you all agree, it would just be a motion to hold our meeting in that location. Any comments from you all first? Go ahead, Pam.
Are you going to do that for other organizations or? is
No,
it
we're doing this because it's a city-owned space. That's why the city owns the Gateway and is making decisions.
But the city doesn't own NSAC.
So the answer to your question is no, we're not doing it for everybody. We're doing it for a group that's in a city-owned space in particular and is leasing from the city to be there. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Council members, any other comment or question about holding the meeting there? Any concerns you have?
I'm assuming that the Wi-Fi is solid.
Yep, Wi-Fi is good.
Boom.
And they're prepared to host us. I would assume that we would put a piece on the agenda to ask them to share with us what's going on in the space at this point. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Carter, you want to do a review of the spreadsheet that we haven't looked at for some time now? What's
Sorry,
that?
I'm like,
Do
I
you
wish I had a digital.
You want to put it off? Do it 2 weeks?
No, well. Okay.
Does that help?
I mean, no, I have it on my computer and I can make edits as we go, but the teacher in me really wants to put it up and move the tiles around, so I apologize. basically, if you have a copy of the packet, it is there. And this was originally drafted in May when we were attempting to foresee the projects and big topics coming our way so we wouldn't go astray. Some of these things we did pretty okay. Some of them, it's like my appropriations policy has taken a couple extra months to iron out, and other things that are out of our control. For example, the bylaws that are still within review, and we haven't gotten those back. So this is just kind of like a reality check, is a rude way to put it, of where we're at and what we've actually accomplished. At the same time, some celebrations are there. For example, managing our debt plan. We are actively forever working on that, but a lot of progress has been made. Other things that stand out to me, well, personally I work with MERP, and I have been working with Tom more on that, so that's still an evolving thing, not dropped off. Other things like the personnel policy. I know that was a really important topic that we dove into at the beginning of July, but this is kind of a way to say, oh, where are we on that? So, before I just ramble and think all of my thoughts out loud on this document, what are things that, as y'all looked at, I mean, yeah, what are things that we need to bring back up and put on the next few months here, because, yeah.
Definitely gotta look at the personnel policy. We put that out a long time. The last time we discussed it, we each had sections we were looking at. I don't remember my sections. But we were each supposed to research part of the policy and come back.
That's my recollection, Kevin, was that end of July, beginning of August, we had a conversation, and you were going to kind of shepherd a process by which the council members were going to look at particular pieces of the policy. That's where I think we were. So I'm wondering if you could go kind of bring us an update on that policy. I pretty much remember beseeching council saying, I can't manage this one. I really need some help from the council to direct the process.
Right, and we were each gonna look at, for example, the discipline and grievance policy, our section of the policy. I was gonna look into that. Then there was the overtime, which was kind of screwed up.
I was gonna look into that, yep.
And what else was there? I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me, but there's.
So could you come back to us on that one in a couple of weeks, Kevin?
Yeah, and if, I think you guys had your notes as well, and we can go back and let you know what the update is.
I would really like to put this to bed.
Yeah.
And I know you would too, actually, because you and I have been talking about it for a long time. So that's the personnel policy. I'll just give a quick update on bylaws. I think basically we've been waylaid again by the business of just trying to get through these loans, but I had a commitment from SP&F that we would have the first section, basically items 1 through 3 in the proposed new zoning bylaws, that would be sent back to the personnel committee, having been reviewed by attorneys. It was supposed to have been done a week ago, and I haven't heard from them yet. But the plan is that they will finish that. The planning commission will then have to do their next step, which involves time for public comment. Then they would send it to council, which would also involve time for public comment. And by the end of November, the commitment from SP&F was that they would have the complete packet done for our review. So I will try and catch up with the attorneys in the next week and find out where we stand.
In September, we were going to revisit the armory ownership conversation, and I know that you have been in talks with buildings and general services, and I don't know, are they the ones that oversee that, or that's
No,
like
it's
federal, okay,
different.
different ownership, okay.
No, it's members in the, I guess it's National Guard, right, who, and I haven't had any conversation with them since May. So, where we left it was they weren't ready to have a conversation with us and we weren't ready to have a conversation with them, but we were all interested in the conversation.
Okay.
So I don't think that's time, it's not time sensitive right now.
I'm just gonna put that in February.
Yeah, sometime in the new year.
Okay. Half of February. Okay. To be fair, I put all the begin budget process stuff in, informative from the memo that is in the thing, so that's there. Sorry to interrupt you.
I was thinking the 5-year capital plan with everything that's been going on, that's gone. I mean, we have to start from ground zero with that, so that's something we should really be.
Well, that and the roads really both tie into that whole concept of priority. I mean, that's really essentially what a capital plan is trying to develop regular priorities so that you know, for instance, that every X number of years you need to buy a dump truck or a grader or whatever it is, you know, but to have a timeline. And there is a 5-year plan now.
There's one that hasn't been updated since when, Tom? When was the last 5-year plan updated?
We all did one last year and never made it to council.
Right, it was never followed up on.
And we haven't done one this year. I mean, I prospectively have one, but we haven't
I think
pursued to have it.
the department heads have a lot of interest in trying to work with us on this, and I think I'd like to get us through the other 2 loans that we have to arrange and finish the fire truck, and then maybe come back to the capital plan, because I do think it's pretty critical to the financial planning that we're trying to do as a community. So I'd say, Carter, like middle to end of November to come back and revisit that question. Anything else? Can I move us on?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If I remember it. Okay.
It's great to revisit, and actually, it feels pretty good to look at all the things that I just drew a line through, because we've done them, and they were pretty big a few months ago. So there's a lot to celebrate here.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
The first column, or there's the dates, and then it's financial water and sewer reports. And I don't know if we're doing that today, and if there is, if we aren't, because, I don't know, we just had it noted that we were gonna look at those every chance we could get, and it's just not on, and I don't know if that's because our agenda is so stacked, but just bringing that up, is that something that we should regularly be doing? Because I thought that was. I don't know if others, like, kind of taken off the training wheels without Chip, but that's okay, we can try.
Mm-hmm. So Chip is planning to be with us on the 20th
Oh, exciting.
to review our numbers again.
Okay,
So I think for the moment, I like the training wheels.
okay.
Okay? Okay, can I move on?
Yeah,
All right.
that's it.
Thank you, everybody. So item 13, I'm realizing as I look at this that I blew it because I should have the specific reference to 1 VSA 313. Whichever one says we're allowed to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter for hiring. And we're gonna do that, go into executive session. I expect it to last less than 5 minutes. We'll come out, we'll do it again for a different personnel matter, which will be equally quick. And then we'll come back for the longer conversation about the task force reports. And you'll notice that there's a longer executive session, item 17, after public comment for those who just wanna go home, because I expect it will take some time for that one to talk about real estate matters related to downtown development. So, do I have a motion to go into executive session to consider a potential new hire to fill the position of part-time municipal building custodian.
Yes.
I have a motion from Kevin.
Do you want Kevin, do you want Tom?
That one, no, I don't think I need anybody except the council for the first one on the custodian position. We'll get Tom on the next one. I have a motion, do I have a second?
No. Second.
I have a second from Andrew. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're in executive session. Okay, do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make that
Do
motion.
I have a second? I have a second, a motion, and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, we are out of executive session. Do I have a motion to approve me, as the mayor, to take action on the department head's recommendation to hire a 10-hour-a-week employee to maintain the custodian duties of the municipal building?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any conversation or question about that? Yeah, we all agree it should be done.
No, but can you tell me who was doing it before and was that a full-time person?
Yes. It was.
Now we're down to 10 hours?
Yes. It was done by Jared, whose last name is escaping me, who was hired. Tom allowed him to move over to the wastewater treatment facility, right? Tom is where he went?
Right.
And so the position's been vacant because we were unsure about budgeting this year. Through the summer, we all agree that we're pretty desperate and all of us are tired of trying to clean the toilets, including me.
And the kitchen.
And the kitchen and all of it. So we think that we can manage on 10 hours a week and we're looking to try and save where we can. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. And just for the record, that session was 1 VSA 313A3. So, do I have a motion to go into executive session as per 1 VSA 313A3 to consider a recommendation from our Department of Public Works Director regarding hiring for a position?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, I have a second? Yes, I'm going to invite Tom into that meeting with us. Thank you. Council members and Tom will be in this one. And Andrew, is that a second?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are in executive session. Okay, do I have, are we back? Do I have a motion to come out of executive session having taken no action? I have a motion by John, or by Andrew, a second by John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Somebody want to put a motion on the table regarding support for the Department of Public Works?
I'll make a motion that we allow the Director of Public Works to send out an offer to his recommendation that he brought forth.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
One second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further conversation, question about that? I'll just announce for folks in the community so that you know, this is a position that is vacant and we're moving to hire for a vacant position in the wastewater treatment facility. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, coming down the home stretch, everybody. Task force reports. John.
Water and sewer met last week and we're meeting weekly for the next couple of weeks. The main agenda item is to figure out what, if any, adjustments need to be made in upcoming water and sewer rates based upon the greater amount of knowledge that we have now and the results of the bond votes. And we're hoping that that audit is available by Thursday night so that we have something to work with.
I think it is highly likely that you will have it in your hands on Thursday. Any other comments, questions? Jennifer, you want to add anything? Some fun we're having now, isn't it?
I'm crunching numbers. So.
Yeah, Jennifer's back in her number crunching mode.
Yeah.
She gets this particular expression on her face when she does it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
and without the number crunchers on that committee, we'd be in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Thank you to you and the other members of the committee, Jennifer. Carter, what you got from financial reporting and fiscal practice?
Same on the audit front. We've been meeting now weekly on Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Bring your coffee and tune in because it's mostly virtual. And we are meeting weekly mostly to keep informed about the different bond and bank notes and all of those moving pieces that we've kind of touched on today already, so I'm gonna just wrap that up in a bow there. The other exciting development is Rick and I had a meeting with a community member who has extensive knowledge in accounting and would like to be more involved once we get our audit to help us translate it. I've also sent an email to the auditors to ask for a walkthrough for them to present the audit to the financial task force, maybe the city council, I don't know, they haven't gotten back to me. And I sent them an email right after we met.
Good.
Which was Friday, so I guess actually, you know, that feels like a long time, but business days is not, so I'm not trying to say anything. But, so that's what's coming down the pike.
So just a note about that. As a council member, I found it really, really challenging when we got the audit report this year because I really didn't fully understand it or even how to ask any of the right questions about it. So Carter's really trying to press to make sure that we get not just a written report, but a careful rendition of what the report's implications are.
And that's, I think, all I've got in my brain. All right.
Okay, Kevin, I don't think there's anything else from your task force, is there?
No.
Okay. Andrew, anything going on for the fire department task force?
Well, we have some of the data put together, and we're going through the rest of it. Hopefully that is done within the next week. And then we can compile, we will have all the data to put some information forth. We are looking at doing Thursday nights now because the state is doing a Fire 1, Fire 2 class at the fire station on Mondays and Wednesdays, so we're limited on space, so we're gonna be doing that on Thursday, so stay tuned to that. Also, this Saturday, if no one has anything to do, we have a fire prevention open house from 9 to 3.
That's this week.
That's Saturday.
When I promised you there would be a fire truck in your yard. I'll just give a quick update on that. We met for an hour with the lenders through municipal leasing corporate consultants. So the actual lender that they're trying to broker the agreement with met with us for an hour on Friday. Was Carrie and I and Chip. Were you there, Carter? I can't remember. You were there too.
Wait, no, I wasn't. But I got an update.
We answered a lot of questions. They had done a lot of work trying to understand our financial situation. It's different than our Pasumsic relationship, obviously. We don't have a very close personal relationship. Our hope, we've been asking every day, can we have the final paperwork? So I'm still working and hoping that we'll have it tomorrow. If we got the final paperwork tomorrow, I think I would probably call Rick Peck from the company and say, schedule the truck for delivery on Friday. So I've promised the fire chief that we'll have it.
Putting the pressure on us now.
Trying.
In worst case scenario, we do have New England Fire did put a YouTube video up, so we can have that playing around the fire station, so people can at least see.
Okay, that's something. It's not as nice as having a truck to climb around.
And you're absolutely correct there.
All right, anything else, Andrew?
No.
Okay. All right, public comment. Has anybody signed up and still with us and would like to speak before we go into our last executive session?
And
Yeah, I guess I do want to say one thing and have you think about how we should handle it. If you haven't guessed, I am very committed to not having people moved around from campsite to campsite, only to find out that all 10 of them that they've been at are illegal. And I'm willing to put the work into finding out what is legal and what is not legal. And I think I can do that by a Freedom of Information Act request to provide me with all the city-owned property and all the state-owned property and their dimensions. Then I can go out with my little ruler and figure out what's what. But I'm willing to talk before I do that to anyone who's interested to see if there's a way around that. Because I think it's really important not to take sad disabled people and do the kind of thing that the ordinance suggests is going to happen to them. And I really would like to find out if there's any place available that they could possibly stay legally. I think we owe it to them to find that out. But I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody before I file. Because I've done that once in 17 years. I'm not a sewer, and I'm not a, well, some of you may think I'm a sewer, but then we spell it differently. And I'm not a requester, but know that may be coming your way.
I'll just say, Ann, I appreciate your giving us a heads up. If there's any way that we can be supportive on a reasonable timeline, short of a request that puts us on a 3-day timeline, given everything else we are juggling right now in this office that is still definitely understaffed, I would be grateful.
That's fine.
So if you made a list of the things that you're looking for, that
I
the
can
clerk
write 'em up.
and
I can
I
write 'em
could
up.
have a conversation about, I think we could be pretty forthcoming. And if it leaves you the option to bring the PRA request if you feel like we're not being forthcoming at any time.
That's fine, I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It does throw us into a tailspin when we have to do those things on a particular timeline. It's really challenging right now.
I believe Melissa left.
Okay.
Pam
Okay.
and Jen is no longer with us.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes. This public comment by attrition thing. So. Okay. So can I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters with leaders from Newport Downtown Development? That would include Stephanie Clark from White and Burke, Dave LaForce, the chair of the Economic Development Committee, and Brian Gray, who is the Economic Development Coordinator for NDD, together with the members of council to discuss sensitive real estate matters. If I can have that, and that's 1 VSA 313, I think it's A2, just for the record. Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion passes. We are in executive session. Dave, you're welcome to stay. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Is there anybody else on the computer that needs to come?
No. We're down to the dregs.
I'll make that motion.
I got a motion from Kevin. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, new business. Anybody got new business? Carter?
No.
Andrew?
No.
John? Kevin? Jim? Any old business? No?
No.
Oh, Carter?
Oh, I was gonna compliment something.
Now you can't remember what it was.
What was it?
Chili Fest?
Yes! That was really fun and amazing, and good job to the winners and all the amazing scarecrows and all the cars. It was such a cool success with the street closed down. Anyways, okay,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, all right.
Thank you.
That's the bridge.
I have nothing for new or old business.
They take away the trash cans, it'd be great.
Oh yeah. Although people like the trash cans, it's so interesting.
It's true.
Well, the trash receptacles. Ideally, they should. Anyways, another conversation.
Another day.
It's
Jim?
10 o'clock.
Yeah, this is probably
9:30.
old new business, but we need to have a board of tax abatement meeting on either the 14th or the 15th, and I've got 2/3 of the VTA sitting here, so which night?
So for new folks, Jim, can you explain what's going on with that? What's necessary and why?
Yeah, we've got a request from a property owner on a water bill. We had water damage in the basement that happened while she was away, and she'd like to be reimbursed for it.
No.
And one of the criteria,
Actually, you're talking about the one that we've been talking about, right?
yeah. for
That's
example-
not, she's not looking for reimbursement. She's looking for forgiveness of an unbelievably high water bill that
Well-
took place in the 24 hours after the leak happened, because she got home 24 hours later and discovered her basement flooding.
Yeah.
So she's not looking for
I used the wrong word.
uh,
Anyway, and it, in my estimation, Rick's too, there's a new criteria on that, and I think it meets that, so.
So anyway, we need
But
a
we have
formal
to do it
meeting
as a board
because
of
the
tax
mayor didn't understand that. I went, negotiated with her, and then I was told I wasn't allowed to, and it had to be a board of tax abatement, even though it's a utility bill and not a tax.
Oh.
So I'm learning,
Yeah.
and we need to do it, and Jim's suggesting we could do it either Tuesday night, the 14th, or Wednesday night, the 15th. It would, I expect, be fairly short, and I would have to be there by Zoom, because I'll be out of the state.
What time good for everybody?
Is there a night, either of those that would work next week, Tuesday or Wednesday? Not this coming week, but the following week.
I feel like Wednesday is probably gonna be better. Let me just check.
Yeah, so let me make sure I said that correctly. Not this week,
Yes,
but next week.
yes.
Okay.
So the 14th or the 15th.
Pam, you're on that group, right? Does it matter to you which one we do?
Not usually.
What time, Joe?
Jennifer, are you in that group?
I'm not in
No.
that group.
We've been
Yeah,
having.
you are. As a member of council, you're
Okay.
automatically in that
Yeah.
group.
Thank you.
We've been having those
So-
meetings about 4:45.
Wednesday,
but
Wednesday.
If you need it
Wednesday's
then
better?
at 5 o'clock, that's okay.
Andrew's preferring Wednesday, Jim.
And I second.
I can't do it Tuesday. I think I can do it
What
Wednesday.
days is that?
The 15th.
14th or 15th.
So it
15th.
looks like Wednesday, huh?
Do you want it earlier or later? 5, 6, 7 o'clock? What's best for you?
Early is better for me.
It's 5.
5?
Yeah.
5.
Okay.
It usually only takes 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take very long.
Love it.
No, it won't take long.
You'll send out email.
I'll let everybody know.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
That's all.
Any other action?
That's all I got.
Okay. Next meeting will be the regular meeting to be held on October 20th here in this location. Do I have a motion for that?
Yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
And anybody, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Done deal. Okay, and do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We have a unanimous, by acclamation, vote to adjourn. I'm going to call that a done deal too.